and then finally it was accepted in 2001. So these algorithm also use the key, and not only they use the key, they also use certain more thing like the permutation table are there, substitution boxes are there. They do the left shifting of the bits. They do the exclusive OR operations. So means they are trying to introduce more complexity within the algorithm so that the life become difficult for the professional hackers to do the cryptanalysis. That means deciphering of the text. So all these algorithms comes with their own set of predefined operations. If you look at the DES algorithm, almost 7 pages algorithm is there. So various almost 5 permutation tables are there, 16-bit of iterations are there, 8 substitution boxes are there. So multiple entities are already there as a part of this algorithm. Same way AES algorithm also come with the 3 flavors, like we have got AES 10, AES 12 and AES 14. That means that the AES 10 deal with 128-bit encryption, AES 10 deals with 128-bit encryption, AES 12 deals with 192-bit encryption, and the AES 14 deals with 256-bit encryption. So different flavors are available for these AES algorithm which can be used, and each and every step carries the multiple more operation inside it. So we have got shift columns are there. We apply the exclusive OR operation. We add a column key. We also do the left shifting as such, left shifting of the bit. So all purpose is to introduce more complexity and severity in the algorithm so that it becomes difficult for the hackers. But at the same point of time, we cannot go for very large scale complexity in the when we talk of the wireless network, because just like our smartphones, the tablets, the handheld devices, because these devices operate on a battery, the energy. So if I introduce an algorithm which is very complex and whose execution consume lot many number of CPU cycles, then definitely the lot many amount of energy of the node is going to be drained off. So nowadays, a lot of work is being done in the area of lightweight cryptography, what we call LWC, because we all know in the wireless network with the nodes that operate, they almost always suffer a problem of the buffer space. They always suffer the problem of the energy level of the nodes, and we always keep on charging our smartphones. You would have seen it. So lightweight cryptography says, or what we say green cryptography or green computing says, design and develop the technique for the nodes in the wireless network. We don't drain off a lot of energy. So you can't make your algorithm very, very complex. It may not happen that 15% of the node's energy is drained off in just generation of the plain text to ciphertext and then backfoot from ciphertext to the plain text. So in this paper of ours, we use the socio-behavioral cipher technique, and we also introduce the concept of the green computing, wherein the energy of the node can be saved, but not at the cost of the computing, not at the cost of security. Then we introduced another work called LBCLCT, location-based cross-language cipher technique. This was a new technique introduced by us, wherein we trap the coordinates of the individual where he is based. So if you're using a smartphone at your home or in an office, so we are going to trap the lat and long coordinates, the latitude and longitude coordinate, without the user knowing that we are using them as 2 keys for our cryptographic techniques. So one key becomes K1 becomes the latitude and K2 becomes the longitude. So it's a more location based. Then another step towards the green computing or the energy efficiency cipher technique was the E2CT, what we call energy efficient cipher technique, that was presented in a conference in Russia. So here also we started working on how to develop the technique which can be made to secure the energy of the node. It should not drain off a lot of energy so the people don't use it at all. Now, when we talk of the security, there are 3 people who we almost admire the most, and I hope you also would have seen their faces. The RSA, what we call Rives, Shamir, and the Edelman. And the entire branch of cryptography, to a larger extent, depends upon it's hang on the shoulder of these 3 persons, because if you look at the work they have done, it's immense. They have introduced many number of the cryptographic techniques and algorithms. We know RSA algorithm, that is an asymmetric cryptographic algorithm that uses a pair of keys, public and private keys, for encryption and decryption. This was introduced by them, and for the work they were awarded Turing Award in the year 2002. Now, just a small know-how about the Turing Award. We do not have a Nobel Prize in computer science. I think every one of us know that. What we equivalent award we have got is the Turing Award in the honor of the Alan Turing. And we would have all read and discussed about the work of the Alan Turing. So in 1965, ACM, the Association of Computing Machinery, started this Turing Award. And right now it's 2021, so approximately 55 years have gone by. Now, considering the population we have got and the number of engineers that pass out or graduate every year, we would have got at least 20 awards. But again, it's ironical to say that India as a country has got only one award, and that too way back in the 1994, when it was awarded to Professor Raj Reddy in the area of the artificial intelligence. So he was the Indian born at that point in time, but based in US. Now so he has come back to India. So that's only one award India as a country has been able to get. And every year the ACM gives this award to a person or a group of person for their outstanding research work in the area of the computer science. So RSA got this award in the year 2002. Now another two set of people who have done a lot of work in the area of cryptography subject for providing a security to the data is Diffie and Hellman. Because in symmetric cryptography, one of the problem was that how to share a key between the source and destination for carrying out encryption and decryption. So for many years, people used certain physical methods, like the source used to telephone the destination about the key, or the source used to write a post card or the inland letter to send from the source to destination, or use a courier, or just like the traditional technique we used to shave the head of a person, write the key, let the hair grow back, and send and ask the person to go back to the destination. So again, the head can be shaved off and the value of the key can be seen. Or just like what the pigeons used to be there, they used to carry the message from the source to destination. So traditional methods were used, physical methods were used for the transportation of the keys from the source to the destination in symmetric cryptography. But the Diffie and Hellman introduced the algorithm, hardly 7 to 8 steps are there, wherein both the ciphertext and the key can now be transmitted over electronically from the source to destination. That means using the network, using the internet or the World Wide Web, I can transmit both of them together, both the ciphertext as well as the key from the source to the destination. Now, if you take another example, just like all of you have got your credit and debit card made, like in India, that's the technique example we normally follow. Our credit card, debit card normally comes by in a courier post, in a registered post, wherein the postman or the courier boy will take our signatures. That means the company or the bank is ensuring that the card is delivered to a right person, and they're also taking signatures and the courier or deliver boy may also ask for your identity, that are you the same person to whom the credit card is made for. But they will not send the PIN number. How they will send the PIN number? Maybe through normal post. So you would have seen, you can correlate this example, you would have seen that the PIN number comes 4-digit or 6-digit PIN number in a black carbon copy cover, and that comes by normal post. And that in that envelope, only the PIN number is there, but the credit card number is not there. Means the number to which it is linked to, that is not there, only the PIN number is there. So that even if the postman or the courier boy opens it up, he will not be able to understand that this key is meant for which credit card number. So point I'm trying to make is that credit card is being sent by a registered post, just like for a ciphertext being transmitted safely, and then the key is transmitted through normal post, and it is delinked. So that envelope will not contain the credit card, debit card number. So both of them used to come by post. Nowadays, things have changed in the last 3 years. Now, what does the bank says? They have upgraded their softwares in ATM. You will receive your credit or debit card number. Bank will send you the SMS that you can now go till this date and get your PIN number generated automatically. So now the softwares in the ATMs are able to generate the PIN number, just like what happens in the private sector banks. But the nationalized bank still asks you that you come to the bank and sign in a register and then take your key. So every company, every bank has own style of operation. But private banks normally encourage that you generate the PIN number through the ATMs only. But the public sector bank, the nationalized bank, always ensures the proper authenticity of your as an individual, and they will call you to the branch of the bank, get your signatures on the register, and then they will hand over you the keys to you. So the what I'm point again is the how the keys need to be exchanged. It itself is a full-fledged track in itself. So Diffie-Hellman was the first person who came up with this algorithm that let the ciphertext be transmitted electronically on the web and let the key also get transmitted electronically on the web. Otherwise, what was used to happen, the professional hackers and crackers used to launch the attacks and they were able to decipher the keys. So no protection was there, but the Diffie-Hellman introduced it for the very first time and they got the award in 2015 for their Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. So quite popular in the area of the cryptography. Now these are the other two persons who I really admire a lot. That's why I shared their pics on the slide. One is a person on the left hand side. It's Professor Anil Jain. He is the world's #1 academician and researcher in the area of computer science. And if you look at the Scopus H index, it's mind-boggling. Almost 132 is what I've shown, but it has increased even more than that in the last 1 week or so. So he's got many number of publications and patents in the area of the computer science. And the person on the right hand side is Professor Sienna Rao. He was the first Indian who was able to cross this milestone of Scopus H index of 100. And what is H index? Herschel's index. It just simple meaning way to understand it. It shows the citation of your research paper. How many number of people have cited your research paper? And he got the award, the India's highest civilian award, the Bharat Ratna, for his achievement in 2014, because he was the first person who was able to cross this H index of 100. So they've also done a lot of work. This Anil Jain is working in the area of computer science, but CNRO works in the domain of like biochemistry, genetics, and molecular biology, and those areas, not in the computer science per se. Now, in a computer security or information security, who we are actually afraid of, from whom to protect the data? First, we say is always the hacker. They are someone who seeks and exploit the weakness in a computer system or a computer network. So they're always looking out for that piece of code which is vulnerable, and they can launch the attack and inject certain malwares into your softwares or into your systems. So hackers may be motivated by many reasons. It could be just for the profit, I want to earn money, or it is something like a protest launching against certain organizations. If you don't like the policies of your organization, you might steal the data or sell off the data of your organization just for the sake of fun, for the enjoyment, or let us say for the sake of challenge. If somebody poses a challenge, can you do it? The answer is yes, I can do it, and this is how I achieve it. So hackers can do it for multiple number of the reasons. Other person is what we say is the crackers. Maybe you are aware of all these terms, so just a quick recap of them. So they are the person who breaks into the computer system, whether it's a computer criminal, then we call them as a black hat hacker, or simple as a plain safe security expert, then we call them as a cracker. So white hat hackers are usually called as the crackers. And these are normally the security experts, just like what we discussed, appointment of CISOs, Chief Information Security Officer, in every organization is a part of the cracker only. So they will take care of the data of the organizations. They will formulate the rules and policies and guidelines to make sure that the data remains, the sensitive data, the crucial data, is very well protected within the organization. Then we also got script kiddies. Now these are not the trained engineers, but these are the typical like a school dropouts or the students studying in the class 9 to 12th. Now, so they're non-expert who breaks into computer system using a pre-packaged automated tools, usually written by the others. So there are many number of the free and open source tools available on the web, which I hope many of you are already familiar with. So these are used by these students to actually break into the school's network or any kind of the network, maybe the network of the fathers or the parents organization or the network of the schools, again just for the sake of fun or challenge or enjoyment, that can they do it or not. So they almost little or no understanding of the complete branch of computer science. They're not aware of the subjects, but then they just googled on the web, they acquired the knowledge and they tried to hack into the systems. So they're usually the outcasts of the hacker communities. So these are the students, or these are the people who are equal threat, just like the professional hacker is. But professional hacker is a well-trained hacker. But these are the students who are not. That's why the word script kiddie has been used. Kiddie means the student below the age of the 18. the school dropouts or the people who are studying in schools and they have the partial knowledge of the computer science, and they use certain pre-packaged tools and softwares to try to break into certain computer systems, which can be dangerous to themselves as well as to the society in large. Now, these are the hardcore criminals, cyber criminals, what we say, and these are the hacktivists. And he's a person who utilizes technology to announce certain social, ideological, religious, or a political message. So we would have seen certain terrorist organizations who operate on the web, and they hire these peoples. They do the good amount of the brainwashing, and then they train them to become cyber criminals, and they keep on launching the attacks on the government organization or the government websites, just like what we see the defacement of the websites of the government, or they may launch a denial of service attack or the distributed denial of service attack. So many kind of the attacks are there which are quickly launched by these hacktivists. And if you look at the attacks, not only denial of service, they can launch the birthday attack, modification, spoofing, dictionary attack, man in the middle attack, masquerading, distributed denial of service attack. So many attacks are already known in the free and open source world. And there could be, I will say 10 or more than 10, more than 20 attacks already in the corporate world, which are not known to the people like us in the open source. Because what we know is what happens on the web. Means all those attacks which are in the open source, but there could be many more attacks which are not disclosed in the open source. And they are all being launched by the professional hackers and the activists. So there equally good amount of threat to the sensitivity and the security of the data. And the other problem is what we say deep web or the dark web. Normally, the total web which we as an individual surf or search is hardly 25% of the total web. The real things might happen in the deep web or the dark web. The web which is not accessible by the normal web browsers like Mozilla Firefox or the Netscape Navigator or the Internet Explorer. So there's a limit to which beyond which I cannot comment on that, but these are the web which is used for almost all the illegal operations. And like it could be the sale of the nuclear submarines, the sale and purchase of the weapons, the biological weapons of the criminal are very active. The sale and purchase of the debit card or the credit card data, the exchange of pornographic materials. So almost all the illegal activities that happen on the web happen under part of the deep web or the dark web. But what web which we see, it comes under the surface web, which is accessible by our normal web browsers on the internet. So one option is to, what I always say is to, if you want to live the life peaceful, just remain offline, because that's the best way to enjoy the life. If you are active on the web, your data is sensitive, your data is critical, and it can be hacked by the hackers without your prior knowledge or consent. So that depends upon your choice, whether you want to remain very active, use social networking platform like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, so many social, WhatsApp, Signal, so many social media platforms. Either you remain active on that, then your data is always on the tenter hooks. It may be hacked by the hackers. Or if you're very conscious of your data, then you just remain in the offline mode. Don't come on the app, because that's the only way how you can protect your data, and nobody can actually launch the attack because your data is not there on the web. No logical data is there on the web. Another better solution is adoption of the cryptographic techniques and algorithms. So I've discussed a fair bit of cryptography already, and various number of cryptographic techniques are already there on the web, which we can use them or devise our own new cryptographic technique based on them. So this we've already discussed. Yeah, cryptographic techniques and algorithms. So let's see what are the cryptographic techniques. This is a slide that shows how does the encryption and decryption take place. So suppose let's say I take the cryptographic technique Caesar cipher, right? So my encryption algorithm become here Caesar cipher. Now the mathematical equation of Caesar cipher is P plus K mod of 26. That means I'm taking the plain text value plus I'm taking the key, that is the value 3. 3 is freezed for the additive cipher, and then mod of 26. 26 because there are 26 alphabets in the English language. So I give the plain text. For example, the plain text is NITTR. Key value become 3. So I add I replace each and every character by 3 characters down the line, right? So my key value is 3. Now the resultant text I get is a cipher text. I send it to the destination. Again, decryption is always the reverse of encryption. So -3 is done. And then I get back the plain text, which the destination can receive it. So this was slide in the Behrus Forouzan book, the simplest slide that shows how does the encryption and decryption take place on the web. So technique I am using here is the Caesar cipher. Now there are many more cipher techniques, like we can have the additive cipher, the Veneer cipher, rail fence cipher, affine cipher, hill climbing cipher. So many number of cipher techniques are already there on the web, which can be used for providing a protection to the data. Or I can design my own technique, which could be the extension of this cryptographic technique, or I can develop a full brand new technique which is not influenced by any of these techniques. So we have the cryptographic techniques under the category of monoalphabetic and polyalphabetic cipher technique. Mono, the word is simple. You are operating one character at a time. You are providing a protection to one character at a time. You are shuffling or you are jumbling the position of one character at a time. In contrast to mono, there's a poly. If you play with many number of characters at one at a time, so you deal with the multiple characters. Poly simple means poly. You means multiple characters. So you are changing the position or you are shuffling the multiple characters to the plain text to provide their protection. Other good technique is a keyless cipher technique. Again, in the wireless network, if I want to provide a protection to the data, so advisable is that I should not use the key-based cipher technique, because key-based cipher technique will drain off more nodes energy. Better is I use the keyless cipher technique. One of the keyless cipher technique is the rail fence cipher technique, where the characters are positioned just like the we have got the bogies in the train. Same way the characters are positioned of the plain text in multiple levels. So I can have the level 1 rail cipher, the level 2 rail fence cipher, level 3 rail fence cipher. So I will position the characters in different levels, and I'm not using any external key. I'm just shuffling or reshuffling or jumbling the position of the character whether across different levels. So rail fence is a very popular keyless cipher technique. So that's the way how we can come up with the new ideas to design and develop our own cryptographic technique for security of the data. Other is a cryptographic algorithm, which we have discussed quite a fair of them. We have the symmetric cryptographic algorithm and the asymmetric cryptographic algorithm. So DES and the AES, data encryption standard, and the advanced encryption standard, falls under the category of the cryptographic algorithms. And then we have got the Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm and the RSA Rives-Shimon-Edelman algorithm. They fall under the category of the asymmetric cryptographic algorithm. So I can use this algorithm because these algorithms are very good in the sense they will have the permutation table, they will have the multiple number of substitution boxes, they do the multiple rounds of iterations, they apply the left shift operations on the multiple number of times during the entire process. They do the exclusive OR operations. So if I'm unable to design and develop my own technique or own algorithm, I can use this predefined algorithm. But again, the persons who are working in the corporate world and handling the sensitive data, the critical data, the data having commercial worth. For example, it could be the developers or programmer working in Wipro or Infosys or Grapecity or Accenture or Nagarro, means those companies who are handling the back-end operations of the banks as well as of the various commercial establishment, like we have got the Myntra and the Snapdeal.com, where online transaction happens, where the customer is actually providing his data. Then we need to come up with our own technique. For example, if you do a credit card transaction on the web, you do online shopping. So what is the input you enter? A 16-digit of credit card number, 3-digit of CVV, credit card verification value number, and 6 digits for the expiry date. That means 2 digits for month and 4 digits for year. So total digits which you are entering is 16 plus 3, 19, 19 plus 6, 25. 25 digits of data you are uploading on the web for doing the online transaction using a credit card. Now, the company which is managing all these financial transactions, means the payment gateway operations, need to make sure that this data of the customer is properly secured using certain cryptographic techniques or algorithms. So you would have seen on the web, there are two modes of protocol we use. One is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, that operates in a non-secure mode. and the web server receives a request for the HTTP protocol on the port number 80. And the other is a secure mode of transmission, what we call HTTPS protocol, Hyper Text Transfer Protocol in a secure mode, because it operates on the secure socket layer, the SSL layer, which was introduced by the Netscape company. And whenever the request is transmitted on the using HTTPS protocol, you would have seen in your web browser on the address bar, the color changes to green on the left hand side. And you would also see a lock that comes in the taskbar of the web browser. That means the secure transmission is going on. And what will the web server do? It will receive the request on the port number 443. So web server receives the non-secure mode of request on the port number 80 using HTTP protocol. And for secure mode of transmission, the web server uses the port number 443, so that the data can travel safely and securely on the secure socket layer. So the customer's 25 digits of data need to be protected. Now, one option is that the programmers, the coders, and the developers working in these IT companies can use certain predefined techniques and algorithms. Like we have discussed many number of cryptographic techniques: Caesar cipher, Wiener cipher, Railfen cipher, affine cipher, hill climbing cipher technique, or they can use certain symmetric or asymmetric cryptographic algorithms. But then these techniques and algorithms are in the open source, and the professional hackers and the hacktivists also know about them. So they can launch the attack and decipher the data. So many kind of attacks, as we have discussed, brute force attack, dictionary attack, man in the middle attack, denial of service attack, distributed denial of service attack, modification, masquerading, spoofing. Many kind of attacks are already there. So it is always, I always say it's the duty and responsibility of these security experts, the programmers, the coders who are working in these IT companies, that they should not use a predefined technique or predefined algorithms for providing a protection to the data. Rather, they should design, develop, and deploy their own cryptographic techniques and own cryptographic algorithms to provide the next level of security, which are, because those will be only within the four walls of those companies. The professional hackers or the hackers will not come to know about what is the complexity level of the algorithm introduced in these companies, introduced by a security expert in these companies. So just like we have got a question bank in the online examination portal, same way we should have a cryptographic technique bank or a hashing algorithm bank, wherein so many number of techniques are designed and developed by these experts working in these corporate companies, and they should use this technique, the proprietary technique, to protect our data. Because if they use the traditional technique, which is already known to the open source, then our data is vulnerable. It can be hacked by the hackers, can be modified, the data can be copied, it can be stolen and maybe sold off in the deep web or the dark web. So many number of the problems might arise if you use the traditional cryptographic technique. So that is what it is expected from these programmers, that they will design their own cryptographic techniques and algorithms to provide a protection to the data. And initially, maybe around 15 years back or so, the person who designed these techniques used to get patented in their own names. But nowadays, the companies, like many companies, almost every company abroad, like just like what you say, FANG book of companies, Facebook, Amazon, Adobe, Netflix, and Google, FAANG. It's known by that name only. If you Google it, you will come to know FANG only. FAANG, Facebook, Amazon, Adobe, Netflix, and Google. They are really ruling the world in the sense that almost their combined turnover every year runs into millions of dollars, maybe almost equivalent to the GDP of 50 countries. That's the amount of revenue they generate. And especially in the time of pandemic, almost everyone has got subscribed to these OTTs over the top platforms, and the revenue has really increased a lot. So nowadays, a security expert working in these companies are not able to get patent in their own name, but these companies file the patent and they keep the patent up to themselves, so that all the royalty they earn are not passed or forwarded to the programmers or the coders who have built in, but the patent remain in the name of the company, which was not the case around 10 or 15 years back. Earlier, the people used to get the patent in their own name, but nowadays the companies get the patent in their own name. And when the person leaves the company, the patent still there remain in the name of the company. So things have changed in the area of the patenting, because they want to keep on earning the revenue which will come from the patenting techniques. Now this is a broad equation that works across majority of the cryptographic techniques, like P plus K mod of 26, which we just discussed. Plain text, a character from the plain text, plus a key value, and then you do the summation, add it, and do a mod with 26. 26 because again there are 26 alphabets in the English language. So that becomes a total generic equation that almost work across all the cryptographic techniques. And then certain variants can be introduced in it. Like additive cipher says plus the key size. That means plus 3. And 3 remains same for all the Caesar cipher, because 3 is a hard coded value which has been put into the first Caesar cipher. Or we can come up with the multiplicative cipher where I can say P cross K mod of 26. So what I do, instead of doing addition operation, I have done a multiplication operation. Or what I can do, I can have it for combination of multiplication and addition together. So I can use a two set of mathematical operations, and they will serve as my key. So I can say P cross K1 plus K2. So I'm using a two keys. So I multiply with the first key, whatever result is obtained, I add it with the second key. So P cross K1 plus the K2. Or I can use the auto key cipher, wherein I can do a shifting of every character by one place. So I can come up with any kind of the logic of my and design a cryptographic technique which is different from these techniques already available in the open source. These are the techniques for our learning sake, so that we can come to know how the cryptographic technique need to be designed, and then we can come up with our own technique and then carry out the security of the data. So if you're a teacher teaching in an affiliate college or any other college, or if you have just registered for PhD, or if you're looking for some topic for your research work, then this is good. It offers a lot many opportunities and challenges. And we always say, when you talk of the research problem, finding a good research problem is itself a problem. So cryptography per se offers a lot many opportunities and challenges which can be exploited. You can design your own cryptographic technique or cryptographic algorithm, and you can compare its performance with the existing cryptographic techniques and algorithm, and you can get a one full-fledged publication in a SCI or a ESC index journal for it. Or you are a teacher who have already done PhD, you can give this topic to your students for their BTech and the MCA final year project, so that they can think over it and then come up with their own techniques, which can be a good technique and proprietary technique which is not already there in the literature. And the simulation of it can easily be done in the Java. I've already shown you a simulation of JC Java cryptography architecture, wherein we generated the hash value using MD5 algorithm. And same with these cryptographic techniques and algorithms can easily be coded in the JC or Python, so whichever you are comfortable with. So already discussed, so we can skip it over. Yeah. Now what we did after studying all these techniques, we came up with our own technique called the CLCT. It's called cross-lingual cryptography, cross-lingual cryptographic technique, CLCT, wherein what we did, instead of using English as a language, we used native languages of India, like we use the Hindi and we use the Punjabi. Now Hindi is a language normally we speak, but the script we use is a Devanagari script. Same way Punjabi is a language, but the script is a Gurumukhi. So that's a kind of the script which we have used for carrying out the encryption and the decryption. Because what we observed, that the cryptography as a subject or in a computer science basically is built around the English language only. Because when we say P plus K mod of 26, the 26 refer to the number of alphabets in the English language. What if we do not use English as a language for cryptography and we start using other languages? For example, I can have, if I do not talk of Indian language, I can code or I can provide a security to a data in using a Russian language or a Japanese or Chinese or French or Italian. So many other languages are there. We can also do cryptography with these languages. Nobody is stopping us. So the point I'm trying again to make here is that why to use only English language as for a cryptography? Why can't we use other languages? For example, if we code or if we design a technique using a French, now out of 100 people of the world, almost 80 people will be knowing English language. But out of 80, only 30 people will be knowing the French language. So we have provided protection toward data, because now only 20 people can become professional hacker who can know the French language and they can hack the data. Same applies to Hindi language. If I take a set of 100 people, almost 90 will be knowing English language, but out of this 90, only 20 will be knowing Hindi language. So I have been able to protect my data at least from 80 people. And now I need to develop a technique to provide a protection to our data from the Hindi speaking people, or the people who know the Hindi language. So just with a change of language, I can provide a protection to my data. That's the biggest advantage for going for cross-lingual cryptography, where I do not use the traditional English language for providing a protection to the data. Other languages, the native languages spoken and defined in our countries for providing a protection to the data. Now, we took the help of the Unicode. It's called internationalization, I18N, because the total number of character of internationalization starting from first alphabet I to the last alphabet N is 18. So we also call it I18N. And unicode.org today contain almost the representation for every character of every language spoken or written in the world. They have been digitally encoded. So as of version 10, Unicode contains repository of almost 1,36,000 characters, covering 139 modern and historic scripts, as well as the multiple symbol sets. So once the fonts are there, once the data has been digitally encoded, now it's become easier for us as a security expert or a cryptographer to provide a security to a data. Now let's take an example here to map the plain text from the English language to the Hindi language. So we ask the person to enter the credit card details. So person enter me 16 digit credit card details. So 552176071233555716. So I've received the 16 digit credit card number. He enters the credit card verification value number, a 3-digit number. So let us say he enters the value is 667. And then the expiry date of the card, the month of June in 2024. So 06/2024. So total data which I now need to protect using my CLCT technique is 16 digit of credit card number, 3 digit of CVV number, and the 6 digits of the expiry date of the card. So again 16 plus 3 makes it 19, 19 plus 6 makes it 25. So 25 digits need to be protected using the technique. Now if I use a traditional technique like the English, so again I will need to do mod with 26. But I can use my Hindi language technique. Hindi language offers, if you know, 52 characters, including consonants and the vowel. So I can do mod not with 26 but with 52 then. Or even if you look at the Russian and the Chinese characters, they are much more. In fact, Chinese is the language which has got more than 1300 characters inside it. So more is the sample space, more large the character set becomes. It offers me that much flexibility for security of the data. And if you look at the Russian and the Chinese, they are very strong in cryptography. They make sure that whatever data goes from outside this country and whatever data comes within the country is carefully scanned before giving to the common public as such. So they're very conscious of the data. In fact, Chinese don't have the Google, they don't have a Facebook. They've got equivalent platforms in their own country because they don't want their internal data of the civilians and the citizens to go to the outside companies like in the US or Europe. So they're very conscious and critical of their data that they need to be protected. And they've got a huge character set. So what we say, Dragon as a language, Mandarin as a language of the Chinese offers more than 1300 characters. So Russian and Chinese have done a lot of work in the area of the cryptography in computer science. Other people who have done a lot of work are the Israelis. Israelis are also very good in mathematics because in cryptography, if you really want to design and develop a good techniques, you need to be very good in math skills, mathematics, algorithm, and programming. And Israelis excel in this. So good number of patents regarding cryptographic techniques and algorithms are today being held by these Chinese, by the Israelis, because they excel a lot. They have wonderful techniques have been designed and developed by them in the area of the security. Now we'll take an example of the IBLCT technique, Indian Bilingual Cross Language Cipher Technique. Now what do we do here?
We map the plain text from the English language to, first of all, in the Hindi language by using a Devanagari script, and then we also use a Punjabi language which has a Gurmukhi script. Now to do it, we we means me and my students in our lab designed a mapping table for it, that what should be the proper mapping of the characters from the multiple languages. So let me share that mapping table so that you can become familiar with it, the table which we designed. I hope it's clearly visible to all. A quick yes or no by anyone. Is it visible, the doc file, Word file? Okay, I hope so it is visible. Otherwise the no would have come. So I take your silence as a default yes. Now if you look at this technique, what we have done, we first of all we wrote all the English characters, A to Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, T, W, X, Y, Z. All the characters are there. And in the bracket, we have written their ASCII values. So in the capital A to Z, we know the ASCII values goes from 65 to 90. And in the lowercase a to Z, the values 97 to 122. That's the ASCII value already there. Now, so if you look at this ASCII value 65, 66, it goes on till we reach to a number of Z with the value 90. Same way lowercase a to Z, we know the ASCII value is 97 to 122. Now we started mapping the English character to a Hindi language characters. So A, English is mapped to Hindi A, B is mapped to Ba, C is mapped to Cha, D is mapped to The, E is mapped to Choti E, F is mapped to Fa, G is mapped to Ga, H is mapped to Ha, capital I is mapped to Badi E, J is mapped to Ja, K is mapped to Ka, L is mapped to La, M is mapped to Ma, because if you look at the pronunciation, the phonetics, they sound in the same way. N is mapped to Na, O to O, P is mapped to Pa, again Q, Ka, but with the visarg. R is mapped to Ra, S is mapped to Sa, T is mapped to Ta, U is mapped to U, V is mapped to Va, W is mapped to Ya, X is mapped to Cha, Y is mapped to Ya, and Z is mapped to Z. So what we did, we started mapping each and every character from the English language to the Hindi language. And this is also being experiment in the some of the private schools have started doing in the nursery and KG where phonetics work. So when we call the BAT, B-A-T, so ba-a-ta, that is how we spell the BAT. Means more like a cross-lingual where we use the English and Hinglish, what we call Hinglish, combination of the characters from both the languages being spoken. Because nowadays Indians are almost across the globe. So many people knows Hindi, right from Europe to US to Asia Pacific, everywhere Indians are there. And many of them already know the Hindi. So Hindi has almost become a global language. So we have got a Hinglish where in WhatsApp also you would have seen Signal also when you type your messages, you are communicating in Hindi with the help of the English language characters. So that is what the English is all about. So that is and these are Unicode values. The one written within the parenthesis are the Unicode values. So we went to unicode.org. There the Unicode values already present because we don't have ASCII value for it. So we took the help of the Unicode values. Then if you look at the last column, we have got a Gurmukhi characters. So again, we did the mapping character by characters. And again, in the parenthesis, we have got a Unicode values for each and every character of the Gurmukhi script. So if you can look around, we try to map each and every character from the Hindi language to its corresponding Gurmukhi character. So if you belong to any of the states of India, there are so many Indian languages like Konkani, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Brij Bhasha. So many languages are there which can easily be trapped. Marathi. So where and nowadays the characters are there. They have been provided a digital space. Digital encoding of each and every character has been done in the unicode.org. So you can take the help of these unicode.org characters and do the mapping. So additional level of security. Now at this point, I'm not doing any change the mathematical operation of the cryptographic technique. I'm just fiddling with the languages. I'm just changing the language, and that is what MLCLC is based on CLCT, cross language cipher technique, or multilingual cross language cipher technique. where more than one language has been used up. Now let's take an example for itself. Yeah. We take an example, encrypt the message cryptography is an art using the IBLCT technique, Indian bilingual cryptographic technique. So we are using a two language here, Hindi and the Gurmukhi, right? Now we need to use certain key also. So we have taken the key value 6 in this example, but otherwise we prompt the user to enter the key values in the range of 1 to 11. That's a normal range of key values available there. So you can enter huge sample spaces there, you can enter any of the key values. In this example, I've taken the key value as 6. Now, let's look at the source first before we come to the destination. So if you look at the sender side, the plain text data is a cryptography is an art. That's the example which we have taken. Now we enter the key values 6 because every equation says P plus K mod of 26. That's a general equation, cryptographic equation in the English language. So we enter the key value as 6. Now we get the ASCII encoded data for our plain text. Cryptography is an art. So capital A to Z has ASCII 65 to 90, right? So C is represented by the ASCII value as 67. Then R is represented by the ASCII value as 82. Then Y is represented with the ASCII value as 89. P is represented with the ASCII value as 80. So each and every character is represented by ASCII value. Ampersand, hash, and semicolon are the delimiters. It's more like a field separators. So that I can come to that this is place where one character's ASCII value is ended and the other character ASCII value is started. So ampersand, hash, and after the digit, the semicolon. So I got the ASCII encoded data. Now corresponding Hindi text ASCII value, or what we say the Unicode value, for them is a 2330. So if you look at this mapping table, where is it? Yeah. When we say cryptography is an art, so C. Now C is mapped to Ch, right? Same with crypto R. R is mapped to Pa. Pa has a Unicode value 2346. C was having the Unicode value 2330. CRY, cryptography. Y, ASCII value 69, Unicode value year, and year has a Unicode value 2351. So CRYP, crypto P, ASCII value is 80. Hindi mapping character is Pa. Unicode value for Pa is 2346. Then CRYPT, T. So T has a ASCII value 84. Then Ta is a mapping Hindi language character for it with the Unicode value is 2340. And these are the corresponding characters and the Unicode values for the Gurmukhi characters. Because what we are using in IBLCT, Indian bilingual cryptographic technique, we are using a pair of language, one Hindi and one Gurmukhi, the Punjabi language. So we have done a mapping character by characters, and in the parentheses their ASCII value and the Unicode values are written. And that is what we have used in our example also. So coming back to example, so C, this is a ASCII value, this becomes a Unicode value for Ch. Then crypto R is a ASCII value, this is a Unicode value for Ra. Then Y, ASCII value and Unicode value for year. So cryptography is an art. So we have gone to that length. So corresponding Hindi data, what we get if we replace character by character, Ch, Ra, Ya, Pa, Ta, A, O, Ga, Ra, A, Pa, Ha, Ya, I, Sa, Ana, Ra, Ta. So that becomes, because this now 2330 is replaced by its corresponding Hindi language character. Same way, 2352 is now replaced by its corresponding Hindi language character, which is Ra. So that's how we get the cryptography is an art. Then what do we do in the step 6? We say P plus K. So what was the P2330? 6 is what? The ASCII value, the key value. Enter the key value. Right? So we were having the Unicode value of 2330. So we add 6 to it, we get 2336. Same with 2352. We add 6 to it, we get 2358. Then 2351, you add 6 to it, you get 2357. And this is what is being shown in the step 6. We add 6 to the value available in the step 4. 2330, add 6, you get 2336. In the step 3, in the step 4, we got 2352. Add 6 to it, we get 2358. Right? Then again we got 2351, P plus K. So K is a 6 here. We add 6 to it. So 2351 plus 6, we get 2357. And so on and so forth till we reach to the last number. So what we have done, we said no, we have not changed the cryptographic technique, because then the acceptance would have become a problem. So what we did, we kept the technique as it is, but we just changed the language for it. We started dealing with the characters in the native languages. So P plus K becomes, and we replace in the step 6. Now step 7, what we do, corresponding Gurumukhi text Unicode value, add 256 to every number in the step 6 by adding extra layer of the security. So 2336 is there, we add 256 more to it, we get 2592. Now that was something additional done by us to add a more level of security, so that even if the person knows of the Hindi and the Gurumukhi language, introducing certain more level of security to it. That's an additional touch given to this technique. So same way 2358, you add 256 to it, you get 2641. Same way 2357, you add 256, you get 2613, and so on and so forth. Let me share that site with you so that you can get a broad understanding. If you look at this site, it's contains the Unicode characters for the mapping characters. For example, here I can see a Devanagari letter A being represented by A, double A by capital Bada A, then I by Choti E, then Badi E, then U, U, R, L, E, everything is there. So this site was very useful to us in identification of the character, and these are Unicode values written in the second column for every Hindi language characters. Same way, if you go down the line, all the Hindi speaking characters are now covered. E, U, Sh, S, Ch, J, Th, H. So all the characters have been covered, and the Unicode values are obtained from this portal. On the same lines, this also becomes useful for Gurumukhi. Yeah. So you can look out the values, the decimal values or the Unicode values for the Gurumukhi characters. So every Gurumukhi characters has now been given digital space, digital encoding has been done, and almost all the characters are available here, together with their corresponding decimal values or the Unicode values, but we don't have their ASCII values. So we went to this portal and took these values, and because these values are available in unicode.org also, where Unicode value has been given to each and every character of the Gurumukhi script. Same way, if you go down the line on this site, you will find other scope for the other languages also, like Bengali, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Gujarati. Almost every character has been now given digital space, and Unicode value, the decimal value, is available for every characters. So depending on the language in which you read and write and talk, you can use this technique to carry out the state level encryption or state level cryptography, where, because not every person will be familiar with Bengali language, not everyone will be familiar with the Gujarati language. So that additional security has been provided in the cryptographic technique by just fiddling or just by taking the help of these Indian languages, which are being very well read and spoken and written. And almost all the characters find their space today in the unicode.org. So I can have Oriya also. If you look at the Oriya characters, every Oriya character has been encoded. Bengali characters have been encoded. Tamil characters are there. Each and every Tamil character, you can find a space here with the corresponding unicode.org value. So this site was very useful for us. I'm just sharing that in the chat window of the portal also. So if you're interested in doing NLP work, natural language processing with the native Indian languages, this site is very useful to us in coming to know about the Unicode characters for the different Hindi language characters, and the Hindi language, Odia, Tamil, Malayalam. And not only these languages, we can also apply the cryptographic technique with the foreign languages. Like we can, if you are familiar with Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, Italian, French, you can even use those technique for carrying out the cryptographic encryption and decryption. So it ultimately depends upon you how much you want like to explore in your uh, by using these languages for providing a protection to the data. Now coming back to our example, yeah. A Gurmukhi Unicode string after the encryption is adding 256 to each character of the step 7. So what we have done, we have added to each character to the step 7 for providing more layer of the security. So what we get, 2598, 2620, 2619, 2614, 2630 and 2591. So more level of security is added. And now what we did, we went back to the unicode.org and looked out which character of the Gurmukhi was available with Unicode value 2598. So we found out this character. Then which character of the Gurmukhi script was available with the Unicode value 2620. So we found out this character. Now since my I don't have that fonts available on my system, that's why it is showing this question mark. Otherwise, they're actually Gurmukhi character being fetched from the script language. And then we establish the connection with the destination and transmit this as a ciphertext. So this text is now transmitted from the source to the destination. And what was the original English character script string? Cryptography is an art. It was our plain text. Now what becomes our ciphertext after using the help, taking the help of the Hindi language and Gurmukhi language? This becomes our ciphertext. So we are able to provide the protection to our data from the large number of the professional hackers and hacktivists who are not familiar with the Hindi language and the Gurmukhi script. That means from the Devanagari script and the Gurmukhi script, Hindi language and the Punjabi language. That was our effort while designing this CLCT technique. Now let's go to the destination side. What happens on the destination side? So the reverse of what happens in the encryption will go in the decryption. So step 1, establish the connection with the sender. Now you can establish the connection using a TCP and UDP protocol, transmission control protocol, or the unreliable datagram protocol, the connection oriented versus connectionless. The source is connected to destination and the ciphertext is transmitted. Now the destination is received the ciphertext. So second step shows the ciphertext received by the destination. Now encrypted Unicode value corresponding to the received ciphertext. So what was there here in the encryption side comes in reverse side in the decryption. So what was there in the step 7 become in the step 3. Then we do the minus 256 from the Gurmukhi characters. We get the Hindi Unicode characters. We again do minus 256. We get the Hindi Unicode characters 2330. Now if you look at minus 6 has also been minus 6 was a key value which is chosen. So 2336 minus 6 we get 2330. 2358 minus 6 we get 2352. So just like what we added the key value during the encryption, we subtracted it during the decryption. 2351, 235, 2357 minus 6 we get 2351. And we are able to get back in the step 7 the Hindi data which was there on the step number 5 here, if you see, corresponding Hindi data. Now with data after performing language replacer or converter function is, now if you look at ch, again we came back to this corresponding ASCII values. So because we know ch was mapped to C and the corresponding value for C is 67 ASCII value for it. Then R was mapped to R and the corresponding ASCII value for R is 82. So we were able to obtain back the ASCII value of each and every character from the Unicode data. And the key value was a 6. So which we already know because that is what we have added and subtracted here. So now the C is being 67. So 67 is the ASCII value for the C. R. 82 is the ASCII value for the R. 89. 89 is the ASCII value for the Y. Then 80 ASCII value for P and so on. So in this way, if you just zoom in and zoom out, we got 10 steps here. First, source works from top to bottom, and for decryption works from bottom to top. And we are able to obtain back the original data which we have transmitted from the source to the destination, that is from the sender to the receiver side. If cryptography as an art is just one example. I can take any example, but I must have the mapping table in hand, because I need to replace or substitute every character by its equivalent mapping characters, and then I also must have the Unicode values for the corresponding language in which you want to do a mapping. Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Odia, Bengali, Marathi, which is the language in which you would like to do the cryptography. So that example, I think, should be able to clear many doubts that how did we do it in using a CLCT cross-lingual. So that's where the word cross-lingual comes. You are using more than one language for providing protection to the data. That's why the MLCLC means multi-language or multilingual, cross-lingual cryptographic technique, where help or support of multiple languages has been taken to provide a protection or security to the data. Coming back to the slide, and what we did, we find the patent for it because this was the first kind of work in this direction in 2017. So it's by the name IBLCT, Indian Bilingual Cross Cipher Technique, and it is published in the Journal of the Indian Patent Office. It's there on the web, but we have not been given patent as of now because the process is still going on. The first round of reviews have been over. They had certain doubts and queries, which we resolved. We replied to them. So it is still second round of reviews are still awaited. So it's more than 4 years have been gone by. If you look at the date, 23rd March 2017, and right now it's July 2021. So almost more than 4 years have gone by, but still we have not been able to get the patent for our work. But it's still in the process. So date of patenting is very important, because thereafter many people can still replicate the task. They can do the same job, but the person who does it for the very first time is given the credit for his work. So if you are also planning to do something like this, you have got your certain own novel ideas, innovative technique, then before going for publication of it, better to get a patent for it, because rejected patent can still be published, but published work cannot be patented. So it's always advisable that you file the patent first, and then you get a patent for a lifetime on your name. And even if for any of the reason your patent cannot be granted to you, you can still use your own work and publish as a research paper in a SCI or a ESA index journal. However, if it is granted to you, you can enjoy the royalty for lifetime. That's for totally depend upon the kind of work you have done and what has been the different round of reviews your patent goes through. First round of review, second round of review. FRR and SRR, there almost every patent is subjected to these two things. And the patent technique is also available as a white paper on the web. It can be browsed and understood as such. So if there's any doubt, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. I'll be happy to answer the questions. Any doubt, any query not clear? Any query regarding the blockchain technology or the cryptography which I discussed? Is everything clear? That's great.
Thank you so much, Rahul sir, for these wonderful sessions.
Just a moment, Amanpreet, just a moment.
Okay, sir.
I'm trying to show something more to the participant. Let me see.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Manpreet, I will share the URL because I wanted to share some URLs to the participant. So I will share it to you and then you can forward it to the participants.
Yes, sir, no issues.
Yeah.
Yes. Either you can share in chat box if you have available right
I was
now.
trying to search, but then I will post it to you. I will share on WhatsApp with you, or I can mail it to you, and then you can post it to the
Okay,
participants.
sir. Okay, sir. No issues. Yes, yes.
So that is all from my side. Thank you all to all the participants for such patient listening. And if you got any doubt, I am sharing my mail ID. You can drop me a mail regarding the both the talk which I delivered. Any query, any question, I will be happy to answer them. Happy to reply them. Okay, Manpreet, then I take a leave.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for this
My
wonderful session.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, sir. And the cryptography techniques and the various things that you have discussed will really helpful in the research work also, if somebody is doing. And keep sharing these types of knowledge. Yes.
Thank you, Manpreet.
Okay, so thank you. You may now log out from the session.
Okay.
And yes, and
See you
thank
all.
you.
Bye bye.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you all.
Okay, participants. If you have any doubt regarding anything, you may write in chat box, and either you can mail to Rahul sir. They have pasted their email ID in chat box, right? And we have our next session at 2:30. Will be taken by Mr. Vipul Mandhar, our project team member, right?